Starstruck.
Well. Welcome back to a new episode of Joyride. I am Jared Brandon Flandy, and
I am Adam Mendenhall.
we're going to do something a little fun today. We're going to switch it up a little bit. We won't be doing a scripted story like we typically have in the past. In this episode, we're going to be having a freeform chat here, and Adam has decided what our topic is for the day. And what will that be, Adam?
That will be, what will cars look like and how will they function in the future?
So we're going to try to make some probably wildly inaccurate predictions of what that might be. But before we get into that, we do have to have a little message from our sponsors once again here, Adam. So since this is from British Parts Northwest, and since 1982, British Parts Northwest has been your source for all your British car needs. They have knowledgeable staff who can help you find whatever you need to make sure your car is in the best condition possible. They carry quality parts brands such as Lucas, TRW, and Borg & Beck. British Parts Northwest is based out of the United States but ships both domestically and internationally and offers same-day shipping as well. You can place your order by phone by calling this number. That is area code 503-864-2001. That number again is 503-864-2001. You can also place your order online by going to bpnorthwest.com. Remember to spell out the word Northwest. British Parts is celebrating its 40th anniversary by teaming up with the Starstruck Podcast Network to bring you hit shows like Joyride. To claim 10% off on your next online purchase at bpnorthwest.com, use discount code Joyride. That's discount code Joyride. Have you ever driven any British cars, by the way, Adam?
You know, I have. It's been many years, but I drove an old MG. It was from the, early 1960s.
And I believe that's what that company also specializes in, is MGs. So if you have any of your MG needs, by all means, check them out. Also, we want to give a shout out to Noah Norwood and his podcast, the Hot Rod Kid Podcast. He interviews multiple guests that are from the automotive as well as hot rod communities. He is also a professional automotive restorer, restoring anything from 1960s Mustangs to 1930s Fords. So we do highly recommend you go check out his show, and that's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So, with our sponsors completed here, Adam, let's get on to our little chats about what cars of the future may be like.
Yeah, it's something to ponder. I mean, with today's jumps and leaps in technology that we see that have kind of somewhat become commonplace, and Tesla obviously comes to the forefront on that. You're seeing more and more on the road, and many more of them are starting to, display their options, their self-drive modes, and it gets me to thinking of, what's going to be the norm here in another 10, 20 years, let alone 30 years into the future. And I think, first off, in my opinion anyways, that's probably going to be the more commonplace function you're going to see is once they streamline that technology across the board to various other manufacturers that are already working on it, of course, that's going to be an everyday occurrence to where you see a person get out of their house, step into the driveway or into the garage, get into the car, and sit back and relax, and it drives them right to work, like George Jetson.
No, I definitely see, the autonomous thing going on. And I have ambivalent feelings about that because in one regard, I realize it's, as long as the car functions as advertised, obviously, but it's safer, because human error is, the number one reason for, car collisions and accidents. It would be more efficient. I mean, just think about how, the thinking is that there'll be basically traffic lights and signals will go the way to the dodo, because if the cars are so calculated and can sense things so well, they never really have to stop for the most part. They'll be all in synchronous with each other, almost like, a ballet, so to speak. And it's like, so, think about how much gas you're wasting just sitting at a red light.
Oh, absolutely.
or fuel, or whatever fuel you're using, electricity would be probably in the case in the future here. So just that aspect alone would be better. But at the same time, as a driving enthusiast, that's the sad part because I'm not driving the car anymore.
No, you're not driving the car, and for those of us that will be part of the, I guess, transference into that new world, we're definitely going to have a problem with that. Now, the younger generation that maybe never experiences this as we move forward into the future, or only references, the control of an automobile from an old podcast like ours, or a book or movie, really won't be missing that necessarily because they won't know anything else. Just no different than people today. I mean, you look at physical media and, whether it's movies or music, and it's a lot of it's just who owns a record player, who owns a CD, aside from us hardcore collectors or enthusiasts. And it's great to see vinyl still doing well, but for the most part, people have just accepted digital and moved forward with that.
Yeah, I'm all for that, but like you, I'm very much into physical media. But that's a different subject, so we'll get stuck on that.
Oh yeah. that's another show on its own.
No, it's not exactly. But yeah, and I can see for a while, because I know some of the Teslas do drive themselves a bit on the highways. I can see that steering wheel still being there for the foreseeable future, even if you just push go and have the car go home. It could be a while before that whole steering wheel thing goes away. The other thing I always wonder, though, that I am kind of positive about this is that, let's say you want to go out for a night of drinking, because this is always my thing, because I just don't drink and drive, okay? Well, let's say I have the car take me down to whatever establishment it is, and I stumble back into it, okay, 3 or 4 hours later, okay? And I would just love the idea of just being able to just kind of, like, of course, difficultly tap at the screen to make it go home. Would that be legal? I don't know. Or do you still have to be sober inside the vehicle? That is a question that I've not heard too many people talk about.
That's a great question. And, I guess from a legal standpoint, how would they handle that to where it doesn't infringe on your rights as a citizen to make that choice if the infrastructure supports it, efficiently enough to drive you home regardless of you being intoxicated or not? I think there would be probably some other provision built into the car, whether it's a blow and go like you use today if you have one of those installed from, a previous DUI or something, but some type of fail safe that will screen you on, oh, okay, there's no way for you to take over like the self-drive mode or intervene with the self-drive mode. It would just literally be locked in the driving you home.
Now, as great as this is, I could easily see, if you are shit-faced stuff, I could see you pushing the wrong address.
Oh.
And it drags you to your mother-in-law's house.
It drops you off right there. Kicks you out the door.
Hi, Mrs. Anderson. It's like, I knew he was bad for my daughter.
Well, on that standpoint, I'm jumping ahead here a little bit, but you think about, how connected all these devices are now, whether it's our phone, our tablets, and, our car, smart houses. Here in the future, you could be, like you just mentioned, unfortunately by mistake going to your mother-in-law's house, and then she's getting notified as you're rolling up because the car gets in the vicinity of the house and it announces, hey, Jared is here at your, what in the heck is he doing here at, 1 in the morning?
Yeah, I'd probably get slapped around the next morning. Sorry, it was an accident. I wasn't driving.
Well, yeah. Well, at the same time, you think about this, it just opens up so many other doors of like, okay, you have the drunk driver, scenario, but what about, hey, I don't want to go to the store. Can I just send my car down there, and then I am doing a an in-store pickup or a curbside delivery or curbside pickup, let's say, and they just throw it in the car, and then the car comes back home.
Yeah,
there goes the couriers, right?
Exactly. Another one I see too is that a lot of people may not even own their own car. It'd be like, instead of, they'd order, let's say Uber or Lyft buys a bunch of autonomous cars, and you just get onto your smart device and you'd order the car and go to work every morning.
There you go.
They'd have to lower their fares considerably to do that, but there's one rotating every 3 or 4 minutes. I'm not saying this is going to happen 10 years from, maybe 40 years from now. It's hard to say,
No, that could definitely open up some huge opportunities, especially in large metropolitan areas where parking's an issue, and you don't want to deal with that parking a car, but you need it to get you to work. there you go. That could be a reality easily.
Totally. Exactly. Yeah. The other thing too, I wonder is, electric is, coming about, but I'm trying to remember who said it. It may have been a friend of mine. It may have been something I read, but essentially what your phone is, or not your phone, but what your car is becoming is a smartphone on wheels.
It is. Yep.
Yeah. In fact, there's been rumors for years now that Apple is going to release some type of car of their own soon.
Can you only imagine the line for that car? As long as it's, obtainable, you might say, price-wise. If they are anywhere in the market that Tesla has been with their Model 3, that's going to be some wild stuff. Yeah.
It'd also be the first Apple product to have Windows.
Oh my. That'll be like a primary ad point right there. That'll be a primary ad or some type of advertising for it. How brilliant would that be? Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's like I loved. I just got back from Hollywood not too long ago on a business trip, and I was at Universal Studios, and they still have some of those cars from like older movies, like Back to the Future 2. And what amazed me is they're just out. By the way, they're just out in this lot, out in the sun.
It always baffles me, and I've been on some of those backlots myself in years past, to where when a movie is done, where everything has been completed, whether it's the marketing that's tied to it, and they still have these props or vehicles left over, there is no care to. They just literally just throw them out there like it's a junkyard, but it's not a junkyard. I mean, they have them on display where you can see them, but there's really no extra care put into them. They will just leave them out there. I mean, to sit.
Yeah, I know. It was kind of cool to see some of those Back to the Future 2 cars up close, though. They're just, I mean, they look great on film, but they're just plasticky, like late 1980s models of stuff at the time.
Oh, it is. And, on that subject, not to get off our subject too much, but, a recent film, Ghostbusters Afterlife, one of the Ecto-1s that was used in that film was the repurposed Ecto-1A from Ghostbusters 2. And that was such a sad story, is that car, after they finished Ghostbusters 2 in 1989, it was left on the back lot there for years and years and literally rotted. I mean, it was terrible. People were really, they did put up an entire fund to try to raise funds to have that restored. And anyways, it was nice to see that it didn't go completely to scrap, that it did get repurposed and became one of the cars used in the movie.
That's sad, but that's good to hear, though. Another kind of like other people's predictions of the future. Mind you, this is kind of going backwards prediction, but believe it or not, I actually watched the Mad Max movies for the first time in the last couple of weeks here. And I don't know why I had never got around. It's something I hadn't got around to. And this is why, mind you, I prefer 4K Blu-rays, obviously, other than streaming. But this is why you still buy DVDs. I literally bought a 4-pack, including the latest one, Fury Road, for like $7.50 DVD.
My God. That's incredible. Less than a movie ticket price today.
I know it's
all the films.
I know it's just DVD, but I was like, I calculated. I literally paid like $1.88 per movie, and I own it, even though if it's just standard definition,
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, though, the first one, if anyone's seen those films, the first one I was kind of astounded because I watched it in order. The first one was by far the most different. Did you notice that?
It is. It stands alone. You see where it really snowballs with the other movies, where they really get deep. And the first one at least has some grounded reality of like, okay, here is society that's still somewhat functioning, but then here we have the collapse on the same plane.
Yeah.
Where the later movies it's just complete, aftermath of apocalypse.
Yeah, and I love how in their vision of the future, as gas is running out, the best thing that they need to do is put a giant V8 in a Ford Falcon that's supercharged.
Yeah, apparently the what is it, Gas Town, or the ones, the different groups that control different resources there in Australia have an unlimited supply somehow, because not too fuel efficient when there's finite amount left.
So I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, so that's that was a very 1970s 1980s prediction. Obviously, we're kind of rolling in obviously into a very different era of what could be. I see cars since there's less, maybe less powertrains or less complicated powertrains and things like that. I see them maybe being more spacious inside.
I think so as well, depending on how far we go into the future at some point, when the infrastructure is there to support, like, for example, we just previously mentioned full self-drive to where maybe cars don't have to stop, where the infrastructure is so dialed in that things move in a fluid motion regardless of where you're going or what you're doing. Absolutely, I could see that to where they're going to make it because you're not having to be in basically that cockpit position or behind the driver's seat, where you could be in a lounge type setting or very more relaxed, that of essentially a limousine of amenities.
Everyone that says, "Yeah, when we have self-driving cars, I can get work done before I go to work." That will not be me. I will be cuddled up in the back with a blanket, sleeping my way to work.
I think a lot of people will, and it won't be the concerning, sight that it is where today you have a Tesla driver passed out in the driver's seat and in the self-drive mode in full go mode. I think they've done some software updates that keep that from happening. You actually have to have your hands on the steering wheel so often, otherwise it kicks out.
Right.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's the thing too. Is like the cars can pretty much drive themselves, but I think it's going to be a while before society is comfortable enough with that idea for those things to completely drive themselves.
I think so as well. Everything seems to take a little bit longer. I mean, you look at the predictions back in the 1950s and 60s, like the World Fair. I mean, heck, flying cars, right? I mean, we should have had flying cars 20 years ago at this point, and we still don't have flying cars. When will that come to fruition? It's hard to say. I think it will absolutely. Right here, right now, if I had to throw a number out, it's such a tough deal. I would say flying cars in the next 40 years. I'm going to say that. And we're in 2022 right now. So, there we go. 2062. They're going to let us have the anti-gravity tech that they probably already have today.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I think what's going to come first before they even allow us to get into the skies is a system or infrastructure of control. And where... For example, let's say we have a car that's capable of driving and flying. Well, you go into fly mode, then you're at the mercy of the system to control you. It's not going to be, hey, what we've witnessed in films like Back to the Future or other places where I can go wherever I want. I think it's going to be pretty controlled because it's going to have to be since we're in the air.
Now, I believe Mr. Musk's prediction is that flying cars will not happen due to a plethora of different reasons, safety, other stuff. So that's why he's into the tunnel method.
The tunnel method. Yeah, literal genius, of course. It's fascinating to hear input from a person like that and their opinions on what's going to happen, and a person that's pioneering the future as we speak. I mean, a person like him. There are so many things that are connected to anything in the sky. You look at the regulation of, the aviation industry today. Anything that flies, all the checkpoints things have to go through, it's extremely regulated for a reason, because if it wasn't, you can't have people that skipped an oil change in their single prop or twin prop plane. Otherwise, they'd be falling out of the sky into houses right and left if they maintain their planes like they do their cars. So I think that's the biggest thing. So, but yeah, the tunnel, prediction, it makes you think, especially with someone like Elon. What does he know and what we don't.
Speaking of airplanes, I remember going years ago with my dad, and it was Joe Billingsley, you know him.
Mm-hmm.
We went on a fishing trip up to Alaska. It was a customer that they knew at the time that invited us all up. And in Alaska, airplanes are damn near like cars because of everything being so remote, right?
Oh, God, the bush pilots, that's right. I mean, you grocery shopping, airplane.
Yeah, and I remember my dad saying, man, they got to have more registered pilots, pilot's license in Alaska, the other state. And Ron, who's the guy we're staying with, he looks at us and he goes, just because they have a plane doesn't mean they have a license.
Wow.
Apparently that's very common.
Well, things are a little different in Alaska. It makes you think, though. I mean, how remote it is, they just don't get regulated as much somehow. Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Yep. But,
the other side of it is, and this is such a broad subject, but, source of power. What will these things be powered? Right now, it's electricity, right? I mean, will we ever see hydrogen fuel cell come back into the mix? Or, hey, I mean, flying cars in the future, could be using some type of nuclear accelerator, maybe
Yeah.
that's causing a magnetic field that produces anti-gravity. We can only ponder what that might be. But nonetheless, I think I have to agree with you on it's going to be much more, drivetrains are going to be very simplified or very, I guess, just streamlined today. When you look at an electric car versus an internal combustion engine, there's not going to be a whole lot you have access to or even need access to, or it'll just be some pretty centralized, devices there.
Now, here's the thing, too, is we're talking about, when I think of cars of the future, I'm kind of thinking of these little pod type things again, and that's strictly for passenger use. But obviously, especially in North America or Australia, people want truck type vehicles. And that's something that doesn't really get discussed much. I know Rivian, is that's essentially all they're offering right now is an electric truck,
It is, and it's an interesting truck. It's a pretty standard size pickup. Reminds me of a Toyota Tacoma, essentially, a mid-sized truck, and you're starting to see more of them. Yeah, so that's it's interesting.
So I'm like, is it going to be a pod with a little bed in the back? I don't, it's hard to imagine. Is it going to be like, something I always thought was a great idea, which I think, should be implemented in the future more in North America, is an Australian ute.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that is a great idea because a lot of people do need a big truck to tow things, but a lot of people buy a truck simply for the cargo capacity.
Exactly. Yep.
And if anyone doesn't know what a ute is it's essentially a car truck. I mean, you can just go online and look them up. It's kind of like a sophisticated El Camino, essentially. That's the best way I could describe it without picturing it. But yeah, I've wondered that is. It's kind of like, Ford, too. I always wonder, what's the future of Ford? Because I think out of a lot of the American manufacturers, they really stepped up to the plate the most for really reliable vehicles. And they, as you know, they quit selling cars other than the Mustang in North America.
Mm-hmm.
It's only trucks and SUVs. So, and I find that kind of sad, since they were making such good vehicles. So, where is that going to go? Are we truly moving to just trucks and SUVs in North America? Are we going back to cars? I don't know.
Yeah, it really makes you think, what that's going to look like at the consumer level, anyways. On the industrialized side or any type of over-road LTL transportation, that's going to take a modified form as well. But yeah, it just makes you think.
I have heard that we Americans are kind of transitioning to more European buying trends. Like sedans are kind of going out here, is what I've really noticed. I mean, unless it's a big luxury sedan, obviously, but in terms of just a daily commuter, hatchbacks, like you see more commonly in Europe, are starting to become more common over here now.
Yeah, it is interesting how that's been catching on. It's it's something. I mean, we're right in the mix right now. Here we are in 2022. I mean, it's a large push to transition to green energy. All electric is really taking hold across the U.S., trying to push that more, make it more affordable. And companies like Tesla are making that more affordable and building and expanding their current infrastructure. It's just not quite there yet. But we're seeing it firsthand here. And I think, especially the next 20 years. I mean, you look at where we were in the year 2000 and where we are today, the variety that's offered out there. Where will we be in another 20 years as far as what my electric car option might be or alternative to a fossil fuel internal combustion engine?
Exactly. So what is it? That was the recent news. California was 2035 on the ban, right?
Yep, ban of all gasoline or diesel vehicles, non-electric. Yep.
Now, I did read, I think part of that law is you could still purchase a used internal combustion vehicle after that point.
Yeah, something of that nature. I don't know all the details, but I believe you're correct. Yeah.
I mean, because in the future, there's still going to be a big classic car following too. I mean, there'd have to be.
There is, and you got to think about that. I mean, let's just to put a scenario out there, ponder that 20 years from now, we've got, let's say, 40% more people using all electric vehicles. So demand on fuel has gone down considerably. How long will they make it available to where, you have these collectors, these enthusiasts that still want to use that, and they can only use it. It'll be similar to like a collector car insurance, right? You can operate that vehicle in places like California if you're under that certain classification. You know, I'm the Jay Leno guy, and I can go burn this, you know, dinosaur fuel out there for limited periods every month. You know, that kind of thing. So there's going to have to be something like that, because, I mean, you can't have that go away completely, even if, you know, once people get to a point that they've transferred over to all electric. I mean, until that all ends up in a museum in the far distant future, it's
I like the idea of hydrogen too. I mean, I've heard some people say it's stupid, not practical, but it does intrigue me. And I mean, there's fuel cells, and there is ones that kind of work with pistons too, right?
That is correct. And you know, the biggest issue with that is when you have more complex technology that's standalone, essentially, in a lot of ways, versus the electric, is the modification or misuse. And I guess what I'm getting at, without going into too much detail, is could somebody, you know, for example, like a terrorist or terrorist group, take something as simple as that and turn it into a device that would rival a miniature nuclear, you know, device, and use that for the wrong reasons. So hopefully they figure out a way to make that more secure, or, more difficult to modify in the wrong ways.
I remember for a while, they were probably about 20 odd years ago. I don't know. They've probably been messing around for a while, but there's also, you can power a car off methane, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I saw something where they were using like cow manure to do it. So your car literally runs like shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you think about something that runs off, I mean, a byproduct is water. And again, the demands on our current electrical grid, that's the thing with electric. I mean, we're going to see a lot of changes. I mean, everything, we're becoming more and more dependent on electricity. It's just getting the infrastructure in place that's going to support that in the long run to help that cleaner energy be more efficient and more feasible for everybody. And I think we'll get there. It's just, we're not there yet, but the next 20 years especially is going to bring some big changes, I'm sure.
It's been a while back, but wasn't there that guy that claimed he figured out he invented the water-powered car?
Yes, that's one of many stories of apparently individuals, or that individual, for example, had figured out a way to power. It was a small, I think it was a small block V8, or a V8 engine, of some origin back then in the 1950s or 60s, that literally ran off of water and produced numbers of 50, 60 miles to the gallon. And again, that's one of those alleged cars or technology that was snatched up by big oil and buried out in the desert somewhere.
And he died under mysterious
circumstances as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's again, some of the the fuel sources around the world and big oil. That's a whole other podcast on its own. But
yeah, talk about flying cars too. If you look back at I don't know, 50s, 60s, maybe a little bit later, but you saw these guys invent these things going, world's first flying car, and you'd see these old newsreels of them, and literally what it was a pair of wings that detached from a little like Cessna.
That's right.
And then they'd drive the Cessna out of those wings. It's like, that's not a flying car, that's an airplane that you detach the wings from.
Exactly. Yeah, there's been a lot of iterations, and especially there's current ones, right? I mean, I know I can't think of some of the exotic, small little companies that are making them, but I mean, you're looking at some of these cars where they've made it much more compact, where it's like it drives down the road and doesn't look absolutely ridiculous, but nonetheless, wings either extend out, fold out, whatever, telescope out, and it actually can fly. But most of those cars, I mean, the price points, I think on the low end, I don't know if there's any under $200K. If not, I mean, they're six-figure cars. A lot of them are over that, or $500,000. But nonetheless, I mean, people are coming up with some pretty radical and ingenious designs.
I don't know. One thing, I know they've kind of built these things, but essentially drones for passenger use, right? I could see possibly, something, folding or unfolding, getting compact enough, you could drive that around in places, and then once you get to a place where you want it to take off, then just your propellers essentially come out, the fan blades that lift it.
Oh, I think there's going to be a huge market for that, and that's where you're going to see a lot of things, especially, I mean, you look at the smart car today, you look at other countries over in Asia, China, Japan, where it's, high population density, restricted space. There's going to be massive markets for devices or vehicles of that nature. I completely see that coming around. Yeah.
Yeah, this will be a fun episode to re-listen to again in like 10 to 20 years
Won't
from now.
it? How much we got right or how much we got wrong? I mean, you think about, again, we're both movie buffs, and one of our favorite movies here is, the Back to the Future trilogy, and Back to the Future Part 2 especially. I mean, there was a number of things there with, the fax machine in the future. They didn't get that right, but boy, the flat screen TVs, and then be able to have,
right, yeah.
screen in screen. They got that. Google Glasses, you might even say. I mean, it's just... it's interesting. Now, the flying cars and the hoverboards, still we're waiting on those, but...
I read, I don't know if this is true, but this is what I read anyways. The writers didn't really want to do a one set in the future because they didn't want to kind of look foolish for making wrong predictions. And so they just went crazy on it, essentially.
Yeah, just to throw whatever.
Just throw whatever in there, just go, hell with it, just for fun. So
yeah, it's nuts. But other ones, like Demolition Man is another one that comes to mind. 1993, where they're in the little police car and the self-drive mode kicks in, and it's like, whoa, that's actually, they did a pretty realistic job with that, where it could drive itself and take over, similar to what Tesla does today.
Yeah, a movie I see maybe getting it kind of close is Minority Report.
That's another good one. Yep.
When did that take place? Is it like 2040s or 50s
somewhere
or
around
something
there,
like
yeah,
that?
yep.
But I love how a lot of future movies, it's like you go 50 years in the future, everyone's wearing bright neon colored saran wrap and whatnot.
That's right.
It's like if you look back to the 1950s, for example, clothes are different, but not drastic. Yeah, so I can't imagine it's maybe, who knows, but I can't imagine we're going to dress very drastically 50 years from now either.
Yeah, I don't think so either. The other one that comes to mind, a couple movies, but one I want to mention is Total Recall, the remade movie from 2012 with Kate Beckinsale and Colin Farrell. And that movie had magnetic cars that were flying cars, but on a mag highway. And I'm like, whoa, now that's a little more grounded. Now I could see that.
I could see that too.
We have mag trains today. Why couldn't they do mag cars? But you would have to have a special highway. And spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the film, you should. But there is a scene where they actually they steal one of the cars and they end off the highway, and they show how it malfunctions. It doesn't work on regular roads. So again, I could see something like that's on a fixed, system.
Yep. Well, on that note here, I think we're getting kind of close to our time here, so we're going to start wrapping things up. Any last-minute thoughts, Adam?
Oh, just, this will be a good one to bookmark, and hey, 10 years from now even, or in the future, let's see how much we got right and how much we got wrong.
Yeah, that will be fun. So with that said, like I said, we do like our likes, and if you can, please leave us a positive review in whatever podcast app you do use, and we will catch you on the next episode.
See you next time.
All right, signing out.